Jigar, in that case, what should be the roadmap for organizations who are serious about building an identity and access management culture, really maturing it to a point where it is a business enabler? And we often talk about it, right? And I think you are echoing the same sentiment. That this is not, first of all, it should not be an IT or a information security project alone. It, for us, we say it should be a business enablement project. This should help you accelerate your business. So what should be some of those practices, some of those steps you would recommend? Because I want to balance some of these questions, right, with your thoughts and then some of your experience on how to action on these. So what should be those steps for these organizations who are serious about it?
Absolutely, Saurabh. And that's a great question, right? I mean, roadmap is. And are you able to hear me well, by the way?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay, good. Okay. So roadmap is actually very important, right? As I said, roadmap is your secret sauce, right? Your strategy, right? How are you doing? What will make your identity program success in your company, right? And I would say identity is complex. It's not easy. It's hard to first of all understand. It's hard to implement, and it's hard to monitor, right? So once you implement, how hard to measure and monitor, right? But it's complex, but if it's planned well, you can definitely get to success. So I always tell there's a starting point for identity access management. There is no end point for that. It's always evolving, right? So when we talk about this, roadmap. So roadmap should be number one. It should have, it should start with a business context. Number one, that's the number one thing. As long as you know what are you trying to solve here, that's where your first thing should start. So as a company, first you should do your internal or even your gap analysis, right? Your internal first assessment, where you are right now, right? Where do you want to go, right? So that gap, that will give you a lot of good insights on where your roadmap should look like, right? Connect those gaps with your strategic vision or your business strategies, where you think, hey, this is what it really matters to my company. And every company is different, right? Certain companies are regulated, certain are not. So what is that which will stick with your company, right? So number one. Number two, there are a lot of external forces which play a role in identity, right? When we talk about this, is legal, compliance, audit, regulatory, right? Financial, your user, business, customer, and of course your technical and security, components. So you have to have all of those pieces in mind while you're defining your roadmap, right? So that if you're a leader who are visionary, you would be seeing all 360 degrees. Then I would actually start with major components of identity, right? And these are like basic, right? If you don't have an identity program, I think things like, for example, onboarding, offboarding, provisioning, deprovisioning, right? Role-based access, your privileged access and entitlement management, right? That's one. Your audit certifications, right? Your customer identity. Those are like 5-6 simple blocks where you can always start and keep building over time, right? And then it should happen is you should have the right governance structure. Is very important. So in your roadmap, you define who could be your governance committee, right? Who are the movers and shakers, or who are the decision makers in your company who can actually keep you in check, right? That, hey, this is the roadmap, I did it. Am I still going on the right road, the right destination, or do I have to pivot? So you need that critics with you to always keep you in check, right? So that's where your governance committee, especially when you have some blockers or you need support, it's always good to have your stakeholders buy-in from day one, right? So that's one. Then once you have the governance committee, you create your identity access management function and in a team, right? So how do you build? There are so many components, right? So as a leader, you kind of say that, hey, this will be my operational team who can keep the bulb on whenever I'm doing some more innovation, because there's always something going on, right, with identity access. Then you should have your governance and your audit committee or a team. Then you should have your engineering and design or a technical folks who are actually deploying your technical architecture and strategy, right? So that should be a part of the roadmap. And finally, I would say, once you have designed all these main components, do not boil the ocean, because if you
Hmm.
try to do everything at the same time, you will never be successful. In no matter in identity or anywhere else, right? Be very strategic. Use a risk-based approach. You know, pick one or two items which you think that these are the most riskiest, and how I can get so that I can get the results fast, and I can even get people excited within the company and outside the company, right? It's also for your good, for yourself also. It's actually, I would say, like, a boost to yourself. It sometimes gives you the boost that, okay, I did something. So that helps all the time, right? So you can eat an elephant, but one bite at a time. That's what I like about whole that a strategic and a phased approach. And then towards the end, you should discuss what the tools are, right? So tools and the end should come towards the end. So you should do, like, your due diligence in selecting what tools, what strategy, if you are into multi-cloud hybrid, what kind of ecosystem you have, and what is your expectation, so that you can pick the right tool for your right requirement. So once you have your requirements, once you have your capabilities, you match them with the right tool capabilities so that you can have that synergy, and then you start deploying it. So I think roadmap to me is that whole, I would say, journey where you start with a business context, right? Have those important pillars down the line, have those smaller wins down the line, and do not boil the ocean. Be very strategic. Get your application inventory, get your assets together, what you want to protect, and then start building on top of that. So these are, like, again, I'm basically preaching to the choir. A lot of people know this, but still people make mistakes in this. So I think roadmap is your secret sauce on how you do this. What vision and mission you wanna go further.
Awesome. Now,